Welcome. Today we're going to learn how to turn a boring old pair of white socks into a super colorful, fun, customized sock using sublimation. So in order to do this, you do want to make sure that you have a pair of blank white polyester socks. You do want to make sure that you have a sock jig. You can make your own, or you can buy these pre-made. This is just something you can stretch the sock out on. And then you want to make sure that you have a sublimation printer like the Epson F570 I have here, and you want to make sure that you have a heat press. So let's go ahead and get started. So the very first thing you'll need to do is actually create your design. I'll be using Canva. You can use Photoshop or PowerPoint or something else if you prefer. But the thing you want to do first, create, and then choose custom size. Make sure your unit is in inches. And then you want to add the width and the height that would be appropriate for your sock. So you want to actually measure the sock and then add a little bit to each side. So I believe my sock measured 3.75 inches wide and about 16 inches tall. So I just added a little bit to each side so that there would be some overlap there. And now I'm going to click Create New Design. This will give me that tall, skinny sock look. And now I'm going to go ahead and design it the way I want to. So I'm going to give it a gray background. I'm going to add a logo on there. Let's use the bulldog here. And now these will be for soccer, so let's go ahead and add a soccer ball. And we'll choose that one, make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and now I'm just going to pattern that ball all across the sock. Okay, and once I am happy with that, I'm ready to save my file. So I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to click on Share and then Download. I'm going to save it as a type PNG and then click on Download. Make sure I save it in a location where I can find it. Now I actually do want to open up Photoshop because Photoshop works well with the sublimation printer and allows me to get the settings correct. So I want to open Photoshop, click on Open, select the file that I just saved. Now it's opened my file as a background layer. I need to change it to a normal layer in order to be able to work with it. So I'm going to go down to the layers menu there, double click on that layer, background layer, and then click OK to name that layer 0. Now I'm going to go up to the menu, click Image, and then Canvas Size. And I'm going to change the canvas size to be the size of the paper in my printer. So right now I have a 17-inch roll in there, so I'm going to make it 17 inches wide. And I'm also going to make it 17 inches long because my sock right now is 16.5 inches long, so I want it to be a little bit longer than the sock itself. Now I can click OK. I'm going to drag this over a little bit. And now I'm going to make another one. So I'm going to go down to where my layer 0 is, right click, and choose Duplicate Layer. Click OK. And then drag that duplicate over. Make sure I leave a little bit of gap in between them, but I don't want too much of a gap or I won't be able to fit all 4 socks on the same page here. Now I'm going to select both of those socks and then go back over to the Layers menu, right click and choose Duplicate Layers. Hit OK, and now I'll drag those duplicates over so that I have 4 socks to the page. That allows me to have 2 sides per sock and a total of 2 socks. And now I am ready to print. So I'm going to click File, Print. Now I have to make sure I have all of these settings correct. So I'm going to check and make sure I have the right printer selected. And then I want to check how it's going to handle color. So I want to make sure Photoshop manages the colors. And then I want to choose the printer profile. This is going on a fabric, so I'm going to choose textile there. And now I want to go into the print settings. Now I need to check all of my settings here. So I again want to make sure I have the right printer selected. And then I need to go down and look at the paper size. Now I have already created the custom size here of 17-inch roll, But if you go into Manage Custom Sizes, that's where you can set your width and your height. Now make sure it matches the square, the custom size that you created on the screen. So mine was 17 inches with a height of 17 inches for my sock. And if you don't have a custom size already created, you can use the plus button over here to create one and set your width and height for your project. Now I need to scroll down and select Printer Options. And here I want to click on Printer Settings and double check all of my settings and make sure they're correct. So make sure the paper size matches what it should. Make sure that the media type is also selected textile for your sock, and then click on OK. Now I can click Save, and now I am ready to print. So I'll go down and click on Print, and I will wait for that to print out. Once it's finished, I can remove it from the printer. And now I want to cut out each of the prints so that I will have them separately. Now I'm going to take my sock jig and stretch my sock to go around it. Putting the sock jig in helps separate out the fibers so that the sublimation will sublimate the entire sock and there won't be like white gaps in between. So I'm going to go ahead and just get that on there really good. Now my design is one that I'm going to need to do one side and then the other side. Depending on your design, you may need to do front and then back, so you just have to kind of look at that. So since I'm doing one side and then the other side, I want to make sure that I have the sock exactly in the middle. So I want to make sure that I find that halfway line and pull it around as needed until it looks like it's even on both sides. Now I'm going to turn my heat press on. And I need to adjust the pressure, so I'm going to put the sock and the jig by itself on the heat press with no sublimation or anything on there, and just press down on the handle and then check the pressure of the heat press. So right now I can see it's at 7, which is a little higher than I want. I want to use a medium pressure, so I'm going to turn that handle in the back to release some of that pressure. Now righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, so figure out which direction you need to go for the pressure that you have, and try to get the pressure at a medium pressure here. 5 is a good. 4 or 5, either one would be fine. And now I'm going to actually tape my sublimation print onto the sock itself. I'm going to adjust the settings on my heat press, so I'm going to hit temp, and then I'm going to turn it up to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. Hit temp again, and notice it's blinking, so I'll hit temp one more time to show that that temp is going to be set. And now I'm just going to use the arrow key to adjust the time at the bottom. I want to do this for 60 seconds, so I'm going to turn it up to 60. And now it will be preheating. While it's preheating, I'm going to put a piece of butcher paper on the bottom. I'm going to put both socks onto the heat press. Now if you have a smaller heat press, you may have to use one sock at a time and turn it diagonally, but on this larger one I can put 2 at a time. Make sure that the paper with your print is on top, not on the bottom. Now add another layer of butcher paper on the top. That'll just help catch any ink that could escape onto the heat press. Once the heat press has reached the desired temperature, you can begin pressing. So we'll swing this one around and push down on the handle to begin pressing, and the countdown will start. Once the timer is done, I'll lift up on the heat press, open it back up. And with some heat resistant gloves, remove the items from the press. And now when you take off that tape and the sublimation paper, you will be able to see the design on the sock. Now I want to do the back side of the sock, or the other side of the sock. So I'm going to flip it over, and I want to pinch the edges around so that the gray, in my case, is coming. I can see a little bit of it on the edge. Otherwise I'll wind up with a white streak down the middle of the sock, which I obviously don't want. So I'm going to pinch those edges over so that they go all the way to the edge and I won't wind up with any white streaks. Now I'm going to tape that down to make sure it stays in place. Now I'm going to position that on the heat press just the same way I did before. Be sure and put butcher paper below and on top of it. Going to reset the timer for 60 seconds and then swing that around and start the press. Once it finishes, I'll raise that up, swing it back around, remove everything from the press. Now I'm going to remove the tape and the paper. And don't forget to turn the heat press off, and there you have it, the sublimated socks.